This is Michael Blackstone with LeeTalkRadio. Today I'm privileged to be with Brian Dean. Brian Dean is the Lee County Public Schools Division Superintendent. And Brian, welcome to the LeeTalkRadio show. This is your first time with us. Of course, we are a new station, so getting right into things, tell us a little about, for those that don't know who Brian Dean is, tell us a little about yourself and what you've been doing with the school system here in Lee County.
Mr. Blackstone, thanks for having me. I'm a lifelong Lee County resident. I graduated from Lee High School. Also went to Jonesville High School before the consolidation. After graduating from Lee High School, I went to East Tennessee State University, got a degree in history and in education, came back and actually taught at Lee High School for a number of years. Went to Lincoln Memorial University, got a master's degree in administration and supervision. Became the principal up at St. Charles Elementary back in 2005. Went back to school and got an education specialist degree in administration and supervision. Stayed at St. Charles till approximately 2016. Then I started at Central Office. At the Central Office, I've done a little bit of everything. I've been over finance. I was over human resources for a period of time. Over instruction for a period of time. Also the assistant superintendent, and then starting January of this year when I was named the interim superintendent, I went in that position. So I've been doing a little bit of everything in the school system. Like I said, I'm a lifelong resident. My family and I live here. Loving wife that's also in the school division. Two children, one who graduated last year from Lee High School, and one that's currently in the school division. So got a number of family members who work in the school division, so I'm very involved in the school division.
And you officially took over as the superintendent, what date or when was that?
Interim was in January. I think they signed my contract in March to start my official capacity.
Gotcha. And is there when you say you have a contract, is that an annual contract or is that multi-year?
You can do up to a 4-year contract in the state of Virginia, but where I started before July the 1st, mine was 3 years and a piece. So my contract goes through June of 2024.
Gotcha. So just on a nostalgic note, you not only do you have your offices here, but you've probably been a student through these buildings and everything in your life.
I've been a student through these buildings. I've walked across the bridge that connects what's now the school board office with Lee High School a number of times back in the early 90s. And so I'm very familiar with all the buildings and the school.
Gotcha. So let's get into some topics that everybody is looking at, and there's a lot of volatile topics out there across the state. I think that things have a lot to do with, the politics, the elections, things like that. Just looking at elections, let's start off with that. What's you have a lot of folks that may be voicing complaints, parents with concerns, things like that, and many of the answers or many of the directions you've got to go are mandated by the state, which means whoever is in the governor's seat and so on is going to put a lot of things down. So how is that maybe affecting, or more importantly, what message can you put out there across Lee County about if they've ultimately got complaints, problems, issues, whatever it is, and it's things that are maybe above the Lee County school board and stuff, and things that are coming down from the state. How and what would your message be to helping change that?
The biggest thing is go vote. I've talked to a number of people this year that have complaints about various things, whether it be masks or quarantines, and I encourage everybody to go out and vote. I think, this position is not political. The school board's not elected as a political position, but I think you need to research the candidates and get out and vote for who you support and who has the same views as you. It's probably the most civic duty you can do. And, currently we've got a mask mandate that was handed down from the health commissioner. I think we've got one candidate that strongly supports that. I think we've got one candidate who doesn't. And I think the biggest item that somebody can do is go vote and express that and do their civic duty. And if they don't like the way things are going, vote for someone different or a different party. If they like the way things are going, status quo, keep the same party that's in there.
Gotcha. Good advice. So let's get into some subjects that everybody is concerned about, and I'm not sure if anybody has any true answers, but we all have things that we have to follow. So let's talk about COVID-19 and how you've been in the school system in leadership roles since the onset of COVID all through this past year, 2020. How has it impacted Lee County specifically, and what kind of things are you doing and are we doing to protect our children, ourselves, and as well as get them educated?
Well, in 24 years, I think COVID-19 has had the biggest impact on education. And it's not an educational item, but it's had the biggest impact on education. You know, when the governor kind of shut schools down on November the 13th of 2020, and we just sent students home, we had a large amount of learning loss. And, kids just went home, and they should have had a number of school days after that. And then since then, we've had issues with masks. We wear masks, we don't wear masks. We've got a health commissioner order that says we have to wear masks in school buildings. We've got Senate Bill 1303 that says as much as practical, we're supposed to follow the CDC guidance. And it's just constantly changing because when you just say as much as practical, follow the CDC guidance, it's not a black and white issue. And it changes every day. One day they'll say quarantine for 14 days, and that's always, I guess, been the gold standard. Then they'll let you quarantine for 10 days if you don't have any symptoms. And, I think as our numbers go down, there's a possibility that we might be able to only quarantine people for 7 days if they're a close contact. And, every time we do a quarantine, it impacts a number of students. I think one day this year, we had over 400 students in quarantine across the county. And that's just a challenge for our teachers because one day you have the majority of your class there, and then the next day, because of a positive case, you may only have 3. And you've got to make sure that those students get the instruction they need.
How many students are in the school system?
K through 12, we've got at the end of September, we had 2,812. So, when you think you had 400 of those at one time quarantined, and that's just involved with quarantine, then you had a number of students who probably were absent just for other items. I think one day we had over 600 students absent this school year for a day, and that's just difficult in being a teacher, a former teacher, and I respect our teachers because last year was different because we went to school for a period of time, then we would be off of school a period of time, and then we would come back. I'm glad to say this year we've not had a day absent because of COVID as far as shutting the division down. We did at the last school board meeting vote to dismiss on a couple of Wednesdays, 2 in October, 2 in November, and 2 in December early on a couple of Wednesdays, just to give our teachers some more time with this large number of quarantines to make sure that students get their makeup work, make sure they're where they need to be, and just let them have a little more planning time to try to help them out.
What about virtual learning? How has that been something that's mandated, used as a tool?
It's been a challenge itself. Last year, when we shut school down completely, you'd go to everybody being virtual. This year, we offered a virtual item, I guess, or a component, but it's separate from our teachers. It's by a company called Edgenuity. The students sign up for it, and they work completely with that company, and they provide the instruction. They're still a Lee County student, but they're doing it all virtually. It's not falling upon the teachers, the virtual students. What is falling upon the teachers are the quarantine kids who are only going to be out for maybe 5 to 7 school days, and then they come right back. So they've got to keep them up.
So is there a certain level of virtual learning they have to go through to get either certified or pass to the next grade? I mean, or is everybody just in limbo in the same grade?
Well, if they do the Edgenuity part, they get the same skill set. It's just provided virtually by Edgenuity.
Same credits and so
Same
on?
credits.
Okay.
Edgenuity keeps track of their attendance. They keep track of their work. They provide us with their grades. We put it into our system so they can get the credit virtually. We did have some restrictions on who could do that. If we had students that last year when we did virtual, they either didn't have a good internet connection. That will knock you out of being a virtual because this is an online-based program.
Sure.
If they simply just didn't do the work last year, we did not allow them to be virtual because if they didn't do it last year, why would we think they were going to do it this year? So we did put some restrictions on it, and we had a number of people that we did not allow to do virtual for those reasons.
In the virtual learning area, when you say they're eligible, so let's say they are eligible. Obviously, they've got to have a decent internet connection, and then is the school providing laptops, computers, or are they're providing their own, or both? Or
We provide them. I mean, with the stimulus money that the government has provided us, I'm fortunate to say we have provided a device for every student in the school division. The lower levels, kindergarten, first grade, got iPads. I believe we also got those for Head Start. And when you got them to second and higher, they got Chromebooks. Everybody's got one. So we spend a lot of the stimulus money on providing a device for every student. Every teacher has a device because they need one as well. So they have a device. They just need the internet connection at their home.
are those devices monitored for security? Are they programmed for school only, or is it pretty much wide open?
No, they're not wide open. We have to, as a school division, be SIPA compliant, which it prevents them from getting on sites, or as much as possible prevents them from getting on sites that we deem as inappropriate or the government deems as inappropriate. We've got filters on those. Even if they're off campus, it still goes back through our filtering system. It's not perfect, just like with any technology, it's always advancing. There's people that finds ways around it. We have to readjust. It's a constant battle. I know you see people that hack into different things across the world. It's the same with us. We constantly do everything we can to prevent it. The vendors that we get stuff from are always giving us updates, but some people just don't put their skills to where they should be, and they try to find ways around things, and it's a constant battle.
Sure.
But we are SIPA compliant, so we try to make sure they're not getting on sites they shouldn't be or go to places they shouldn't be.
So back in the I guess COVID's not over, but back in when it was first coming on and everybody was scrambling and schools were shutting down, everything that went on here in 2020, it's just been recent, really, in the last since it seemed like it started picking up the first of the year and into spring, where broadband was being pushed into Southwest Virginia real heavy. I know our Delegate Kilgore, Todd Pillion, and other of our state leaders have pushed for that. So has that impacted now where we're at? We're almost at November of 21. How is the broadband affecting that virtual learning?
It's greatly helped. I know we still have pockets across Lee County that doesn't have the best access, but I want to compliment Senator Pillion, Delegate Kilgore. They have helped us. Scott County Telephone, Point Broadband, I know they have expanded their coverage area, but there's still areas, I think, in the county that does not have it. So, there have been students that we had to say you don't qualify for virtual because you don't have an internet connection. Even a hotspot wouldn't work because there was no cell coverage in some of these areas. It's getting a lot better. It's not, I won't say true coverage. We've worked with the county and those vendors to try to provide them list of people who say that they would be interested in the internet. But I know it takes time. You can't just snap your fingers and have broadband everywhere. but it has gotten a lot better since this has started.
That's awesome. Give us a forecast for, let's just go through the end of this year. That's just a couple months. Where are you driving this car, and what are we looking for? Both as far as just schools being opened on any given day, to the virtual, to whatever. What's the forecast for the next couple months?
Well, I mean, if you're looking at it as a weather forecaster, I think it's getting a whole lot better. I think weather is getting better. The number of cases has went down in the last little bit. There was a time that I think I did 40 notices across the county for 40 positive cases within 1 week of the Lee County Public School System, whether it be a staff member or a student that tested positive. I think I've done 1 or 2 this week, so it's gotten a lot better. And I think, we've weathered the last Delta storm, the variant there. So I don't see us having an issue between now and the end of this calendar year, having schools open. I guess one of the biggest challenges we've had is we've had some issues with some boilers. But we've been using some of the stimulus money to get those cranked up. They're working now. I've got a crew at the vocational school, one at Pennington, I think one at Lehigh, and they're finishing up down at Jonesville with some boiler work to make sure everybody's got heat as the weather starts to change and gets colder. But I think it looks better, and I hope it continues that way.
What about vaccines? Is your staff mandated they have to have vaccines to keep their job?
Currently, no. The staff does not is not mandated. I know that OSHA is looking at forcing employers who have more than 100 employees to either have their employees vaccinated or test weekly. Virginia follows OSHA requirements, so if that is passed, Lee County Public School may fall under that. So if what I have read is accurate, we would fall under that, and our employees would either have to be vaccinated or tested once a week. But like I said, the election can change that. I think I saw an interview with both candidates. One said that he would definitely support a vaccine requirement for students if it's, in his terms, proven by the science and CDC is safe, that he would back a vaccine requirement for students. Currently, we don't have that. We've offered clinics for our staff, and we've offered clinics for the 12 to the 18-year-olds. And we have been working with the health department that if a vaccine, or when it has, I guess it has now, but the 5 to 11-year-old vaccine, we will open up for the clinic to come here, and anyone who wants that vaccine, we'll provide a place for them to get it. But currently, it's not mandated.
There's the last thing. I'd like to have you back here for another show. There's stuff going on at the state level. We see it on the news, all of us. Transgendering, sharing bathrooms, boys and girls, to the critical race theory. It's mind-boggling. As things unfold through the election, and then getting going towards the beginning of the year, I'd like to have. We'll see how those topics start playing out across the state, and then maybe catch that on another interview as to what we're doing in Lee County. I know that most of our folks have a little bit more of a conservative view on this end of the state than maybe those that
right.
think differently.
There's a number of hot button, I'll say, political issues, and it filters down to the school system. Our primary focus and what we will do every day is try to make sure every child is safe to the best of our ability and teach them. But a lot of these political issues end up at the education level, and we have to address them. But our primary focus is on those children and making sure they're safe and teaching them every day.
Brian, you're doing a great job, and we appreciate you. Thank you for being on the show, and we'll call this a wrap.
All right, thank you, sir.